line, 47 thousandths of a second, just about the amount of the starting line advantage. 500ths of a second went to Mark Oswald over Casey Spurlock. He continued to hold on to the lead as we look in replay. As he moved past the 8-mile point, they neared the finish line with Oswald in the lead. Our finish line camera shows us that Mark Oswald had just a little over a car length advantage as they crossed the finish line at nearly 270 miles an hour. So even though he ran a slightly quicker elapsed time, Casey Spurlock loses.
Mark, identical 527s. You had the better light. You were up for the start.
Yeah, well, this car was strong. I mean, the blower belt came off at 1,000 feet, and I was just coasting. I was lucky to stay ahead.
When you're coasting like that, you just hold your breath and pray.
Oh, yeah, that's all you can do.
What would it have run had the blower belt stayed on?
Oh, it'd run probably about a 23 or 4 like it did last time.
Ooh, we look forward to that later on.
Despite the problems, another strong performance by the Big Red Machine. Back in the top fuel pit area, the crew headed by Lee Beard, getting the engine ready for the Final Four match between Gary Ormsby and Eddie Hill.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over.
Regardless of the race car, this is Joe Amato's machine. The crew preparing it for its Final Four race with the quickest car of the meet, Gene Snow. That'll be coming up in just a few moments. Right now, let's get on with round number 2 of Funny Car Eliminator. This is the Winston Points leader, John Force, at the wheel of the Castrol Oldsmobile. John is in a somewhat unusual position here in round number 2. He does not have the opportunity to select his lane as Austin Coyle makes a final check under the fiberglass body. Force has got to be thinking back to that first round race when he lost the lane choice. He had qualified number 1 and beat Al Hoffman in round 1 with a 5:30. But Chuck Etchells, his competition here in round 2, qualified 8th and beat Dominic Santucci with a 5:29. That gave him the lane choice, and Etchells has selected the lane furthest from the camera. We're riding with John Force. With fire coming out of the right-hand side of the engine, John Force advances to the Final Four. His elapsed time, 5.31 seconds. His speed, 269 miles an hour. 5:41 was the losing time for Chuck Etchells. As we look again in replay, the problems for Force were not only with the engine. This car got dangerously close to the center line. If you cross that line on the racetrack, you are disqualified. And Force had to be pulling it back, driving away from it all the way down the course. You can see the flames spitting out of the engine. That is not normal. But for Force, he had enough of a lead built up that the engine problems did not hamper his victory. But it's obvious there's lots of repair work to go on between rounds. This is Richard Hartman at the wheel of the Ray Besta Special. His competition, Scott Coletta, driving the Coletta Flying Services entry. These are 2 of the young superstars of this sport. Richard Hartman is only 22. Scott Coletta at the age of 28, a second-generation drag racer. Steve?
John Force, as early as that motor started going away, I'm surprised you were able to stay with it and still run a 5:31.
Well, I didn't know what was going on. I'm concentrating on that pop in the lights. Well, the pop didn't go away, but the motor went away. But actually, I had the front end in the air, and I was on the center line and trying to get my butt off it. And winning's critical now. McCullough's staying in, and I ain't having any luck. He's not hurting itself. We're going to have to win this race ourselves.
John Force revealing just some of the pressures that build up as you quest after a share of the Winston $1 million postseason payout. Scott Coletta and Richard Hartman are not in the chase for the championship, but they certainly would like to add to their honors by taking home the title of this Sunoco Keystone National. Scott Coletta qualified 12th. He beat Tom Hoover in an upset in round number 1. While Richard Hartman from the number 4 qualifying spot beat Jerry Caminito with a 5.31 second elapsed time. Hartman is definitely competitive with anybody on this racetrack. The Pontiac Trans Am body utilized by Hartman and Oldsmobile Cutlass on the Coletta car. They're into the staging procedures as starter Buster Couch watches intently. When they're both set, he throws a switch and the tree's green. Hartman easily outdistances Coletta. His elapsed time, 5.37 seconds. His speed over 251 miles an hour. The continuing strong performances by Hartman at the wheel of Nick Bonanfanti's Pontiac put them into the Final Four. His competition, John Force. Force with that 5:31 gives him the lane choice. The other pair, Ed McCulloch against Mark Oswald, a titanic battle here. Oswald getting the lane choice. Next, the Factory Hot Rods Pro Stock Eliminator at the Keystone National. We're back at Maple Grove Raceway, and as we get set for the Final Four in Pro Stock, let me just remind you that at the end of the race, we're going to be announcing the winner of the Goodyear Eagle Driver of the Race Award. Goodyear will be giving $1,000 to SEMA, the scholarship fund of the Specialty Equipment Market Association, in that driver's name. The burnout's underway for the Final Four in Pro Stock. Mark Powick against Darrell Alderman. Here are the two quickest cars in Pro Stock racing. Mark holds the national record at 7.220 seconds. Darrell tied it in qualifying with an identical time. He must run quicker to set the new national record. He has had runs in eliminations of 7:22 with a 6 and a 7:23 as he beat Harry Scribner and Ricky Smith. Mark Powick beat Gordon Rivera and Steve Schmidt and definitely doesn't want to lose his record.
Mark, you have something that Darrell Alderman wants.
And my proudest possession, Steve's a national record, and he's sure been gunning for it all weekend. My job is to try to stop him from getting it.
Steve, I swear, if we can get a good, smooth, straight run, that car will run a 7:21 something.
That'd do it.
Thank you.
The record requires a 1% backup. Obviously, the 7.220 will back up anything down to around a 7:18. Incredible thoughts about the potential of either one of these race cars. Alderman in the Dodge out of Mopar Parts in the far lane. We're riding with him. Alderman takes the win, 7.27 seconds. No record yet. 188 miles an hour, the losing time for Powick, a 7:34. So Darrell Alderman advances to his 5th final round this season, and Mark Powick keeps his record, at least for now. Here are two racers locked in the Winston Points chase. Warren Johnson in the Oldsmobile came into the event in the number 2 spot. Bob Glidden in the Ford in number 4. Let's go to the far end of the track and Steve.
Well, Darrell, you said earlier, if the car goes straight, maybe I can get the record. It seemed to go straight, but a 7:27 to beat Powick.
Well, evidently the track's going away, Steve, because I feel that the car will run a low 20, you know, in this kind of conditions.
Maybe saving the best for last?
Could be. You can't ever tell. Maybe we ought to switch lanes if we can get lane choice.
Off to our right is Mark Powick. The good news for Mark, the only good news, his record is still intact.
I'm happy it's still here, but we got to watch Warren yet, Steve. Anything can happen, you know. I just did our best. We're going to get him one of these days, honest.
I know you will, and we're all going to watch Warren right now.
Incredibly close racing in Pro Stock, not only at this event, but also over the entire season. This has not been the greatest year that Bob Glidden has had, but he's got fond remembrances of Maple Grove, because it was 1 year ago here that he won his 75th title. He beat Jim Yates and Larry Morgan earlier today, while Warren Johnson beat Jerry Haas and Bruce Allen in his 1st and 2nd round races. Johnson at the wheel of the AC Delco Olds, qualified in the number 2 spot. Glidden in the Motorcraft Ford was the number 6 qualifier. Glidden last to stage and first to leave. That whole shot paid off as Bob Glidden ran a 7.26 second elapsed time at 188 miles an hour to win out over Warren Johnson, 7:24 at over 190 miles.